What's up and welcome to another episode of Gizmo Slip Tech. Today we're going to be comparing the OnePlus 6 versus the iPhone XR. Which of these two budget-oriented devices are worth picking up? If you're debating between the budget iPhone this year and one of the best budget Android phones, this video is for you. We're going to be comparing the design, the display, the performance, the battery life, the camera, the software, the special features, and the overall value. Without further ado, it's going to be freaking epic. Let's get started. The OnePlus 6 features a 6.28-inch display with a notch. It has a screen-to-body ratio of 84%. Now it has a very slim all around the top and sides with a significant bottom chin. I do really like the way the OnePlus feels in your hand. It feels very premium, very sturdy, very solid. Now the 6 also comes in a number of colors. You have mirror black, silk white, red, or midnight black. The iPhone XR on the other hand sports a 6.1-inch display with a notch. Now it has a consistent bezel all the way around, but because it is a little bit thicker of a bezel all the way around, it only has a screen to body ratio of 79%. With glass on the front and back and stainless steel around the sides, the XR feels super premium and super high end, even though it is technically Apple's budget phone. Now both devices have strengths and weaknesses when it comes to design. Overall, I think the biggest weakness for the OnePlus 6 is the bottom chin plus a notch. I feel like a phone in 2018 should either have a notch or a chin and not both. For that reason, I prefer the XR's design overall just a little bit more. Let's talk displays for a moment. The OnePlus 6 has a 6.28-inch OLED panel with a 2280 by 1080p resolution. That translates to a PPI of 402. The iPhone XR, on the other hand, has an LCD IPS display with a resolution of 1792 by 828. That results in a PPI of 326. Now the increased PPI of the OnePlus 6 is a big advantage, but the average human eye can only see a PPI of 287 from 1 foot away. Now if you have really good eyesight or you tend to hold your phone a little bit closer than 1 foot on average, then you will be able to notice the difference. Overall, the OLED panel from the OnePlus 6 is going to be fantastic. It's going to have better contrast, which results in poppier colors and a poppier overall image. The LCD coming from Apple this year is going to be fantastic overall quality and extremely bright, rated to the same level of brightness as their iPhone XS. When it comes down to it, both phones have great displays, but the OnePlus 6 display is simply better. Now when it comes to performance, the OnePlus 6 features the Snapdragon 845, the most powerful Snapdragon processor to date. It also features 6 to 8 gigs of RAM for excellent multitasking and switching between apps and keeping apps in memory. Now OnePlus phones are known for their optimized software, allowing for opening and closing of apps the quickest out of any Android phone to date. And this is really impressive when you stack it up with the iPhone X from last year, which technically the iPhone X from last year with the A11 Bionic was actually a faster processor, but the OnePlus 6 still outperformed the iPhone X from last year. Now Apple is claiming the new A12 Bionic in the iPhone XR, XS, and XS Max is going to open and close apps 30% faster. Now the A12 Bionic is also supposed to be 50% more powerful when it comes to graphics performance, which is a huge leap. I don't want to understate that. That is enormous. Currently on the iPhone X, games like Fortnite or PUBG Mobile, yeah, you can get some pretty good performance, but for example, Fortnite is locked to 30 frames per second. Perhaps with the new processor, you might be able to get 45 frames per second, and perhaps with the XR, because of the reduced resolution, we might even be able to push up to 60 frames per second if the developers allow for it. Now, when it comes to software optimization, maybe the OnePlus 6 still can compete in the arena despite having a slower Snapdragon 845, but we're gonna have to wait for speed tests to come out before we'll know for sure. Just because of the raw processing performance of the A12 Bionic chip, I've got to give the performance category over to the iPhone XR, though in certain tasks the OnePlus 6 might actually be a little bit quicker because of better software optimization. As far as battery life goes, the OnePlus 6 is known for having really good battery life. It features a 3300 mAh battery, but because of the reduced resolution, it tends to outperform other Android devices with similar battery sizes. Now the same thing is true of the iPhone XR. Because of that reduced resolution, you're going to have improved overall battery life because the phone doesn't have to work as hard to push out as many pixels. Based on Apple's own battery ratings, the iPhone XR is supposed to have even better battery life than the XS and XS Max. So overall, despite the OnePlus 6 having a really good battery life, I'm expecting the XR to actually beat the OnePlus 6. But we'll have to wait and see when the XR actually actually releases. Now, when it comes to the camera, the OnePlus 6 is better than any previous OnePlus phone, but that is to say this is probably the weakest area of the device. OnePlus's color calibration, image processing, and software just isn't to the same level that Apple, Samsung, and Google is at. Don't get me wrong, the OnePlus 6 is a great camera, and I would not feel bad taking photos with it and using it as my phone, but it is definitely not better than the iPhone XR. This is especially going to be true because the new iPhone XR utilizes that A12 Bionic chip to process these images, allowing for some really good high-end HDR. Apple's calling it the Smart HDR. Apple, Samsung, and Google do HDR photos better than just about anyone right now. The iPhone XR will have the same front and back camera as the iPhone XS and XS Max, with the exception that it doesn't have the telephoto camera lens on the back, which means that for portrait mode, it's going to be using machine learning to sense the depth around the target and blur the background. Overall, the OnePlus 6 camera is good, possibly great, but the iPhone XR is going to be right up there with the very best of them. When you compare the software that both of these phones come on, the OnePlus 6 comes with Android Oreo with the Oxygen OS overlay over the top of that. Oxygen OS is OnePlus's optimized version of Android. It has some minor visual enhancements, but very little bloatware, which I really like. You're essentially using stock Android with a few minor touch-ups from OnePlus. Now, the iPhone XR is going to come with iOS 12, which has a number of improvements as well. And I do like iOS as an operating system, but unfortunately there are some limitations like app download size, not being able to customize your home screen exactly how you like it. Overall, when it comes to software, it's a very personal preference. If you like that extra layer of customization, go with Android. If you prefer to have a streamlined, super easy approach, you can't mess it up, then go with iOS. Or if you really don't care, then it really doesn't matter. It comes down to other aspects of the phone in terms of which phone you should buy. Overall, I think both operating systems are winners, so I give them a thumbs up and a thumbs up. It's just a matter of personal preference. When it comes to special features, the iPhone features wireless charging, super accurate and quick Face ID unlocking, and dual SIM support. Now, with the iPhone XR, there's a noticeable lack of headphone jack and fingerprint sensor. Now, the OnePlus 6, on the other hand, has a fingerprint sensor and a headphone jack, and it has dual SIM support. Unfortunately, neither of these phones support micro SD card slots for expandable storage. That is probably the one glaring flaw that I will say both devices have. Overall, the OnePlus 6 wins the special features category because of the headphone jack and the fingerprint sensor. Now, the OnePlus 6 costs $529 for the 6 gigs of RAM and 64 gig model, and it goes up to $629 for the 8 gigabyte RAM model and 256 gig storage option. The iPhone XR starts at $749 for 64 gigs and goes up to $899 for 256 gigs. Now, that puts the XR at $220 more than the OnePlus 6, making the OnePlus 6 a much better bang for the dollar. Let's go ahead and review which phone won each category. In the design category, I docked the OnePlus 6 for having a chin plus a notch, so the iPhone XR barely wins out. The display on the OnePlus 6 has better contrast and has better resolution, even though the average human eye probably wouldn't be able to tell at normal viewing distance. Overall, the OnePlus 6 wins out. The OnePlus 6 is extremely quick in speed tests for day-to-day usage. Overall, I have to give it to the iPhone XR simply because the A12 Bionic is such a more powerful chip. Now, both of these phones have great battery life, but overall, I believe the iPhone XR will have slightly better battery life, but we'll have to wait and see when the XR actually releases. Now, when it comes to snapping images, the iPhone XR clearly has the better camera, though the OnePlus 6 is not too far behind. When it comes to software, I give both of them a thumbs up. It ultimately comes down to individual preference. When you look at special features, the OnePlus wins out because of its headphone jack and fingerprint sensor. And in the value category, the OnePlus 6 has a better bang for the buck, coming in at $220 cheaper. So in conclusion, if you crave a better display, a headphone jack, a fingerprint sensor, and a better bang for the buck, the OnePlus 6 is the clear winner. But if you value having the best processor on the market, improved battery life, and an improved camera, then the iPhone XR is the phone for you. And of course, if you prefer Android or iOS, it'll heavily sway your decision one way or the other. Overall, both of these phones are fantastic, and I can highly recommend both of them. One thing to keep in mind though is the OnePlus 6T is just around the corner. The launch event for that phone is going to be on October 17th. That should have an in-display fingerprint sensor, which should be really cool, and potentially a very high screen to body ratio. So if you need to get a phone right now, then either of these phones are going to be great, but if you can wait a month or two, the OnePlus 6T is just around the corner. That's it for this episode of Gizmo Slip Tech. Let me know which of these two phones you would pick up. I'll have a poll in the top right, as well as in the comments. Which phone do you think won in each category? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to see more, tap that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. Brandon out.